All right, here's an example where you can solve by factoring. I know I've made a big deal out of the quadratic formula and told you again and again that the quadratic formula is your go-to tool. You can use it to solve any quadratic equation, and that's true. I did, however, notice a couple homework problems where they explicitly say that you should solve by factoring. For those homework problems, I absolutely give you my permission to solve using the quadratic formula if that works for you on that problem. But I did want to make a video really quick to show you how to factor. Um, we're gonna discuss the main technique of factoring that we're going to use here is sometimes called the AC method, and it's called that because this is a quadratic expression can be written this way, right? This is the way that basically it needs to be written in order to use the quadratic formula. So you're familiar with this already. So the AC method um, requires that, first of all, like almost all methods involving quadratic equations, that you need to have 0 on one side, okay? So that you can clearly identify the A and the C, all right? Now, in this particular equation, it doesn't start off that way, right? So we need to do something about that. So what we're going to do is subtract 4x from each side. And what do I get? I get 2x squared plus 3x minus 4x, right? If I subtract from the left-hand side. And then I get 4x minus 4x plus 10, right? And of course, the whole idea was to get that to cancel, right? So I get 10, right, on one side. And then I'll combine these like terms into 2x squared minus x. And then I'll subtract 10 from both sides, right? If I subtract 10 from both sides, I get 2x squared minus x minus 10 equals 0, right? 10 minus 10 gives me the 0. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull that over here and get to work on it. Okay, so the AC method requires that we identify the A, the B, and the C. So what is A? 2. What is B? -1. What is C? -10. And then we multiply A times C. That's why it's called the AC method. You multiply A times C. Okay, draw an equal sign. All right, so A times C is 2 times -10, which is -20. And what you do once you have AC is you start writing down factor pairs. Now it's interesting in this case because it's a negative number. So any pair of factors of -20 is going to involve one positive and one negative, right? So we have to consider that. But what I'm going to do first is just, in order to avoid writing down, redundant things or maybe unnecessary things, kind of save space, I'm not going to write the signs. But I'm just going to keep it in mind that one of these numbers, when I start writing down the pairs, like 120, right? 1 times 20 is a factor pair, right? That one of these needs to be negative, right? When I go ahead and choose my factor pair, because they have to multiply together to give -20. So I'm going to write down 1 and 20. I'm just going to keep it in the back of my mind that one of these is supposed to be negative, but I don't know which one. If this is the pair, but maybe it's not. So it could be another pair, like for example, 2 and 10, right? 2 and 10, right, could be if I put a -2, right, and multiply that by 10, of course, I get -20, right? Likewise, if I had a -10 and multiplied it by 2, I get a -20. And there's even more. So 4 and 5, right? Likewise, if I had a -4 and multiplied it by 5, that would be -20. And if I had a -5 and multiplied that by 4, that would also be negative 20. So all these pairs give me these possibilities, right? And again, when I consider a pair, which pair I'm going to choose, I know that in fact one of the numbers needs to be, I need to make it negative, okay? But I don't know which one. All right, how do I figure out which one? Well, the two numbers that I choose, right? The pair that I choose also has to add up to be equal to b. That's the second part of the process. So I remember, what was my b, right? So now the question becomes, which of these pairs can I put a minus sign on? I can put a minus sign on one of them and then add them together to get negative 1, right? And you see pretty quickly that that's got to be 4 and 5, right? And which one has to be negative? The 5, right? Excuse me. I see that now because 4 plus negative 5 gives me the b, negative 1. All right, so I found my pair. So this is going to give me a positive 4 and a negative 5, right? Because 4 plus negative 5 is the b, right? This b, which is negative 1. Okay? So now what do? What I do is I take this thing, this quadratic expression, and I write it out in a special way. 2x squared plus 4x minus 5x, right? You see what I'm doing? And then minus 10, right? And I'll keep this 0 there. Equals 0, okay? So do you see what's going on here? What is this 4x minus 5x? That's just minus x. So all I'm doing is I'm rewriting that minus x as 4 plus minus 5x. So all I did was do a little bit of creative rewriting. Okay? So now once you have that, you can group these together. You can group, like you can factor by grouping if you've ever heard of that. So if I group those, say, oh, there's a common factor I can factor out. So, and that's 2x. So what if I factor out 2x? I get x in the parentheses, right? X plus 2, actually, right? If I factor out a 2x from there. Now, what about this over here? I'm actually going to factor out a minus 5, right? There's a minus sign, so I have to factor it out. So, and what if I do that? Minus 5 times what is minus 5x? It's x, simply. And then minus 5 times what is minus 10? Positive 2. Now we see something sort of like magic has happened. Right? This and this, right? They're the same. Oh, don't forget your equals 0. So x plus 2 is now a common factor of the whole left-hand side. So let me just factor out x plus 2, right? And if I do that, I'm left with 2x minus 5 as the other factor. And the whole thing is 0. Now, zero product property comes in. Remember the zero product property? If a product of two things is 0, as this equation says, then I set the two factors equal to 0, right? Set x plus 2 equals 0, and then I set 2x minus 5 equals 0, right? And I get x equals negative 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. And then if I add 5, what do I get? 2x equals 5. And then divide by 2. Right, divide by 2, divide by 2. I get x equals 5 halves. All right? So those are my two solutions. Okay? That's it. Hope that made sense. There are plenty of videos on AC method on YouTube. So I would say search them out and find one you like and learn from it. And if you want to use it on the exam, it's fine.